Learning a programming language, always hoping to apply what you've learned. Indeed, many tasks that are boring to do by hand can be easily solved by programming, such as merging a bunch of Excel spreadsheets, generating employee cards from a roster, and so on. But often the situation is, have a lot of training courses and read many materials. It seems to learn something, but it does not seem to be useful. Why? Programming languages usually have two grades of content. The first is the basic logic of the program, such as variable, branch, loop. Almost all programming languages have this content, and the related keywords and syntax are also very similar. One with Excel experience can quickly master it. However, after learning this part, you can only practice your brain and do some math problems, such as solving the chicken and rabbit problem, decomposing prime factors. That doesn't solve the real problem. Unfortunately, many books and courses only go so far. To apply what you have learned, you need to learn the content of grade 2, which is structured data and related operations. Most tasks in your daily work involve data in Excel spreadsheets. It has a name called structured data. Each row of the table is called a record, and each row has the same attributes, which is called fields. The entire table is a set of records. The operation of structured data refers to the operation of these tables, including filtering, grouping, join, and so on. Basically, corresponding operations or functions can be found in Excel. For example, grouping is roughly equivalent to pivot table in Excel. Join is equivalent to Excel's VLOOKUP. These are not difficult to learn. After mastering the knowledge of structured data, you can truly handle daily work with ease and efficiency. Unfortunately, many programming courses do not teach it or cannot teach it clearly, because mainstream programming languages cannot handle structured data easily. For example, the Excel built-in VBA, free from installation, simple configuration, from famous vendor, seemingly looks good. But, VBA is too basic and has weak support for structured data. Even simple tasks require writing large sections of code. How about Python, which is advocated by the training classes all over the street? Python looks much better than VBA. It has good support for structured data, but you just cannot master it. Most of Python users are highly skilled professionals. Python mainly uses something called data frame to process structured data, but this thing is not a set of records, nor is it a table that we usually understand. It is actually a matrix, with rows and columns named, making it look like a table. However, when using it for table processing, unexpected results often arise. For example, using an employee table to count the number of people in each department, the conventional approach is to group the table by department and then count each group. The result should be a two-column table consisting of department and number of people. But Python calculates it this way, as if it has performed the same counting action on each column. Because in Python, when a counting function is applied to a matrix, it will count every column. Unexpectedly, right? This correct result can only be calculated using the size function. However, this result is no longer a two-dimensional data frame, but a one-dimensional series, and it cannot continue to apply the methods of data frame. The grouping and aggregation result is also a structured data table with rows and columns. Is it not good to continue using data frame? Why invent another thing? It's really puzzling. There are similar phenomenons, such as the result of a simple grouping, should be a set of sets, but in reality it is a data frame group by, which is different from the first two types and cannot retrieve members by sequence numbers. There are a lot of similar sets in Python, each with its own adaptation scenarios and operation rules, which is dizzying. And the transitions between them are particularly smooth, and if you're not careful, you'll calculate out something you don't recognize. As a result, programming basically relies on Googling, and you don't know why even you are right, and you'll have to Google again next time. In addition, Python processing of table data requires a third-party package, and the installation is a bit difficult. Python debugging is also a bit annoying, mainly still using the print method. What about the famous SQL? It is said to be dedicated to structured data. It's even less likely. Install the database, which will block 90% of beginners. Import data into database before calculation. Export data from database after calculation, both troublesome and professional. The language ability is not complete, and loop and judgment require the more professional stored procedures. The code for complex tasks is unreadable even by professionals. There really is no appropriate one in the mainstream programming languages. As a result, beginners are always asking what to learn and are always unable to apply what they have learned. No amount of training classes can solve this problem, because the training classes cannot invent an appropriate programming language. This is essentially a matter of not having eggs, not a matter of how to make an omelet. Well, esProc Desktop is here to solve this problem. esProc Desktop provides powerful programming language SPL. Its original intention was to perform structured data calculations. The structured data type of SPL is what we are accustomed to as a table, which is a set composed of rows of records. SPL is not only powerful in table processing, but also easy to learn. The code length is much less than VBA, and the difficulty is much lower than Python. Using structured data tables in SPL allows for intuitive coding, such as grouping and counting. After grouping, simply use count. SPL gives only one type of set, with the same type before and after grouping, and can continue to be calculated using the same function. For example, it's still a set after grouping, and you can use the sequence number to retrieve one of the groups without creating anything new. SPL can quickly solve daily work problems with shorter code. For example, splitting one sheet to multiple sheets by a certain column. SPL needs only 3 lines. Simplify it to 1 line is also okay. A more complex task, to find the longest consecutive days of rising for each stock. SPL is easy to solve it in a few lines, only 1 line of key code, and no loop statement. Python, by contrast, is much more tedious and requires hard writing loop. Unlike traditional textual code, SPL code is written in an Excel-like grid, and the programming process is very intuitive, which can greatly reduce the entry barrier for beginners. A cell name is a natural variable name that intuitively references calculation result. View the calculation result of cell on the right. Especially suitable for step-by-step calculations. Grid indentation can also visually represent code scope, such as loops and judgments. Programming errors are inevitable, and debugging takes a lot of time. SPL supports complete debugging functions, including breakpoints, step-in, skipping, and so on. The intermediate calculation results are automatically displayed, intuitive and convenient, and say goodbye to print method. Installation of esProc Desktop is also simple. One-click installation, graphical guidance, no configuration. The esProc Desktop also provides the SPL XLL plugin, which can execute SPL code directly in Excel to complement the shortcomings of Excel. For example, to find the star products that make it to the top 10 every month. The intersection in Excel is a trouble. SPL's set operations are much more powerful, and the short formula could get the result directly. SPL is simple to use, and once learned, you can efficiently handle daily tasks. esProc Desktop is free to use, with a wealth of materials such as books, courses, Excel routines. Folks who want to learn programming, go download and try it now.